Hey guys, welcome to this week's track guide. This week we're at Imola. A fun track. I've never been here myself, so I've done plenty of laps practice this week. Fun track to hot lap, but I'm not sure whether I'm really going to like the racing this week, but we'll find out. Right, let's get into it. Weather this weekend. As always, date and time set to what the official session is going to be set to next week. Track is currently sitting at 23 degrees. On to the setup. Setup this week. Pretty much what we normally use. 54% brake bias, minimum tyre pressures all round. 2 on the SPO this week. There's a couple of high curbs. I'm sure you can get away with higher, and I probably will change it throughout the week. So keep an eye on the Discord. There's a link in the description if you're not in the Discord. Or on the stream. I'll probably change it up and see how low I can really get the car. 8 on the anti-roll bar, and obviously 2.1 gallons for Qually and 3.1 for the race. Okay then guys, the lap we're going to look at this week is a 2:02.699. Did it on the very last lap. Didn't get that much time for testing, but you can see I've done 27 odd laps here. Testing everything out. Okay, coming down across the start finish line, 5th gear. Quite a long flat out stretch down into turn 1 and turn 2. Bring the car to the left and then let the car bring over to the right hand side of the track. Now, as we come up towards here, you will see this little bend in the road. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to, in the braking zone, we're going to drop down in the 3rd gear, but we'll see that in a minute. We're looking at the 100 meter board, but what we're going to try and do, we're going to try to keep the car as much to the right hand side of the track as we can to open up the corner. But we're not going to hit the brakes until the car is straight. So we're going to get around this little bit of a bend. And when the car is straight is when we're going to hit the brakes. So looking at the 100 meter board, you see this go around this bend. And then as soon as the car straightens up again, you can see here, as we turn through this bend, we're going to get the car straight. And then as soon as the car is straight, we're going to get off the brakes. Off the accelerator and onto the brakes. But the most important thing to do is to keep the car on as far to the right hand side of the track as you can. Down in the 3rd gear. Now you really need to slow the car down more than you expect here. Because you're going to try and keep the car on the left hand side of the track. Use this curb on the inside here. Just avoid these little sausage things that are on the inside of this curb. You see I barely just run over it a little bit here. And then we're going to try really hard to keep the car to the left hand side, but we're going to get back on the power. You see how early I'm back on the power, back to 100%. And then try to straight line it through this corner. Now we're going to keep it at 100% here because this exit is really wide. If you've done this turn 1 here correctly, then from this point onwards, from here onwards, it's flat out through this next bit of the corner. You really don't want to be lifting through this second part of the corner because you'll lose time then down this next, not straight as such, but this next long bit of the track. And it can cost you quite a bit of time. So the most important thing to do is to go slowly through turn 1 and then get back on the power as soon as you can to get a better exit down this next part of the straight. You can use this curb on the outside if you need to as well. Okay. Inside this corner, we're going to go up the 4th gear. Obviously, still holding it flat. You can use all of this exit here if you need to. Keep the car on the right-hand side of the track. Coming up towards turn 4, I think. I remember. Okay, let's go back to the cockpit view. Okay, coming up, we're looking at the 50 meter board. Pretty much where we're braking here. We come up towards it. It's quite a fast entry to the corner. It's not really a brake. It's basically 6% just to help with this little bit of turning. Keeping the car in 4th gear. A very similar corner to turn 1 and turn 2. You're going to go in, carry as much speed through here as you can, but also while trying to keep the car as far to the left hand side of the track as you can to open up this next corner. As you can see, I'm totally off the off the brakes and off the accelerator, kind of coast through this bit, this first bit of the corner, just trying to carry as much momentum through there as I can. And then as soon as we're through this fourth corner, as you can see how hard I'm trying to keep this car to this left-hand side of the track to really open up the corner. Then we're gonna brake for this next corner and drop the car down into third gear. As we turn the car through the corner, again we're gonna avoid this little bit of a sausage. Back on the power as soon as we can. We're gonna use all of the exit here. You could dip the tires onto the gravel. Just be a bit careful of the car getting a bit loose and a bit slippery. Coming down towards the hairpin, I keep the car in third here. I imagine that some people are probably going to go up to fourth gear. The car is kind of scream new at this point, but it's one of those times where I prefer to keep the car in gear and hit the rev limiter once or twice rather than deal with the extra downshift through the corner. Just how I like to drive the car. Okay, looking at the 50-meter board and this end bit of the track. Here, we're going to brake just as we come up alongside, or maybe just a little bit past. As we come up next to it, just a little bit past off the accelerator, brakes about 50%. Down the second gear, your typical hairpin through here. Keep it as tight as you can on the way in. Before then, I'm a bit hesitant back on the throttle. I do get on it a little bit early, just before the apex, you can see here. A little bit hesitant, till I'm confident that I can not going to run off the track when I get back to 100%. And then you can use all this track on the outside. I imagine a couple of people may go down in the first gear around that corner. And if you're following traffic and traffic in front of you is going slow through that corner, then you may as well use first to get a better drive out. On a hot lap though, I prefer to keep it in second. But you guys know by now I like using the higher gears of the car rather than dropping needless gears. Saying that though, I am going to drop down an extra gear more than what's really needed through this next corner. But okay, up in the fourth gear, keep the car to the right hand side of the track. We're looking at the 50-meter board. Now this is a very fast left-hander because you can use all, it doesn't look like it, but you can use all of the exit. If I just go to the cockpit a minute. We're looking at a 50-meter board. When you're at full pace, you're braking just past there. You're kind of in line with the shadow, but if it's on a cloudy day doing a race, then the shadow won't be here. So I tend to look at the 50-meter, look at the corner approach, and not a brilliant brake marker, but I tend to just use the 50-meter, and then as we go past it at full speed is when we brake. But a much faster corner than you really expect. Okay, so we come up towards it. Just past it, we're going to drop the car down in the third gear. And we're going to turn the car in. And then we're going to get back on the power as soon as we hit the apex. It's a little bit of a hesitation there. But as soon as we hit the apex, we want to get back on the power. And then drive out, really get a good drive out of this corner. I should probably think this is probably one of the corners on the track where if you're losing a couple of tenths, or if you're losing a tenth here and there through your lap time, this is probably one of the corners which you guys probably need to work on. I said I did 27 laps, and it took me a lot of laps to really get used to this corner, to get a good drive through and get back on the power. You can also take this corner in fourth gear. Which I also tried in a few laps, but I found that dropping at the third and being able to get third gear, getting rotational through the corner and being able to get back on the power earlier than you can if you went through there in fourth, gains you time down this next bit. So this is definitely one of the corners to work on. You definitely have to think about. Normally, to me anyway, it comes natural when you can feel it. When you're able to get back on the power, back to 100% throttle. This is one corner that I really needed to work on and really think to myself, right, I'm coming up towards this corner now, we're going to hit the brakes, drop the third, and now I really need to get back on the power. Just push your foot on the throttle, because you can really use all of this exit out here without getting an off track if you need to. So I'm going to really practice on this track. Okay, up in the 4th gear. This is probably the most trickiest part of the circuit. It's this dodgy braking zone. So, as we hit the 50-meter board, we're going to come off the power. No real need for any brakes. Seriously, I've used them barely 5% brake here. You can run over this inside curb. I tend to avoid it though because it can unsettle the car a little bit. And as we're sliding out towards this outside part of the track, is when we're starting the brake. And as you can see, I get back on the brakes here, and you see the car gets a little bit loose. But you really want to be braking in a straight line, keeping the car as straight as possible, then dropping it to 2nd gear. But you can see it's a really long braking zone here. Going through this corner. And then when the car kind of gets straight again is when we get back on the brakes. About 20% all the way up to this corner. You can't brake too hard. If you brake any harder than this, with this sort of steering angle, the back end is just going to go away from you and you're going to be off the track and out here. And while also dropping the car from 3rd down into 2nd. On the inside of this corner, again, getting back on the power as soon as we hit the apex, back to 100%. Be careful using this green stuff though. It's very close. There is a slowdown in this corner. If you run onto this green stuff, then it's about a 2nd slowdown, so it's a nightmare, so be really careful of that. Back on the power, keeping the car to the left hand side of the track up towards the chicane. Up in the 4th gear, looking for the 50-meter board here. Cockpit. Tricky chicane, really high curbs. We're going to hit the 50-meter board, just as we do. I'm going to drop the car from 4th down in the 2nd gear. Really hard braking zone, nearly up to about 75% brake pressure. Turning the car in really early, and we're going to really eat loads of curb on the entry. And then we're going to eat some curb on the exit. And then we're going to use all of the exit. Now one thing you guys probably notice is how unstable the car is through here. The first part of this corner is good. The second part, not so much. So, as we come up towards it, we really want to turn in early, drop the car in the 2nd. You want to... I'm kind of trail braking into this corner. But you really want to eat all of this inside curb. Run over it all. Now, and then you concentrate, and then from this point on, you concentrate on the exit. Now, on this particular lap, I took too much of this inside curb. As you can see, the car's really bounced over here, and then it slides here on the exit. You don't want to be doing that because obviously sliding costs time, and you don't want to slide. So really, what you want to be doing is maybe go a mile per hour slower through here, just a little bit tighter on the exit here to get a cleaner line through this 2nd. Not by much, and it didn't cost me very much time at all. It was the fastest lap. This part, when I'm talking time, it probably cost me half a tenth or maybe a tenth out getting this slidey on the exit. And then you can use all of this green stuff without getting off track if you need to, as I'm doing here. Remember guys, any questions about this track guide, please join the Discord. All the lap files, all the B lap files, setup files, replay files will be available on there. Or if you've got any questions, just post them in the comments. I tend to answer 95% of questions and comments below the video. Okay, down towards the last set of corners. Keep the car on the left hand side of the track here. Just so you can turn in late for this corner, and then being able to keep the car on the right hand side of the track. Braking zone here is the 50-meter board again that we're looking for. Just before it. Although I am looking at the 50-meter board, but I seem to brake just before it. So sort of in between the 50 and the 100, I would say. But my eyes are looking at the 50-meter board here. Really fast pace you're coming down into here. So we're going to drop the car from 5th all the way down to 2nd. Really hard braking zone. You can see how long I'm braking, 75%, and I keep that brake pressure just trailing off a little bit towards the corner. Down into 2nd, through this curb, and hit the inside, and then we're going to use all of this green stuff to really open up this last corner. You can really get out here on the what's it called, AstroTurf green stuff, without losing any time and without getting an off track. You see how wide I am here, and I'm going to keep the car really wide, and then this last corner. So just as the car gets stable again, straighten the car up. No brakes needed through this corner. It's just a little lift. Brief lift before getting back on the power. You can really use all this inside curb. Getting back on the power as soon as you can. Obviously, all about the exit as ever on every corner. You can use all this green AstroTurfy stuff again on the outside if you needed to. And down across the finish line. Fun track, guys. Not sure what the racing is going to be like here. As I said a couple of times, you notice that you can really use, to get the best lap times on this track, you really need to use all of the track, including the AstroTurf greeny bits that are on most corners. Apart from that one corner you get a slowdown on, which is a pain, but you can really use all of the off-track, so to speak, limits, and that's what you need to do to get the best lap times here. Anyway, guys, hope you all have a good week of racing, and hopefully I'll see you on the track. If not, I'll see you next week.